Week 10 of the regular season in the UFL is here. 3 teams, Orlando, St. Louis, and let's see. We got St. Louis, Orlando, and DC. The reason I hesitated on DC is because do they have a spot clinched or don't they have a spot clinched? We'll also talk about who that fourth team's going to be. It is the Bottom Line Podcast, and it starts now.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Bottom Line Podcast. Coming to you every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, just like clockwork. Let's bring in KJ, my co-host for tonight's show.
Good evening.
Once again, we got Brett joining us at some point, but he's living on the interstate, I guess, in Birmingham the last couple months, so we never know when he's going to join us, but looking forward to when he pops in. But Week 9's in the books, KJ, and the water has kind of started to clear a little bit as to who's in and who's not, or has it. I mean, you look at DC, and for all the posts that you see that DC has clinched a spot in the playoffs, you look at the standings and you start doing some scenarios in your head, and you wonder how that can be the case. So I guess the league probably needs to come out with some clarity on the 3 teams that have clinched and why they've clinched. I thought going into it, it was pretty much a cut and dried Birmingham and Louisville scenario for that 4th spot.
Yep.
And I don't know. I've read some interesting posts on Facebook this week that paints a picture of why is DC clinched. I know that there's also been the question does St. Louis have a home playoff game clinched? And I know that they were number 2 in the strength of schedule going into last week, but I think what hurts St. Louis is, for the tough first half of the year schedule that they had, where they pretty much was playing all the top teams, the last 3 weeks of the regular season is Houston, and Dallas. So with 3 consecutive games against 3-win teams, will that drop the strength of schedule down to where, St. Louis really needs to win to guarantee a home playoff game this weekend? But why don't we go ahead and get right into the games? So then that way when Brett jumps on, maybe we'll be at a point where we can kind of turn the page and start talking news and the upcoming preview games for Week 10. So first game out of the chute was the DC Defenders losing the game to the Orlando Storm 27-19. I'll let you go first on this one. I've got some thoughts on this game, but why don't we go ahead and let you start off with this game, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, through, I guess, arguably 3/4 of the game, it looked like it could go either way. And I think by the time the fourth quarter hit, Orlando essentially started to pull away or assert dominance and quote-unquote seal the deal. We've talked about this, I think, several weeks in the past, Ed, but the penalties are obviously definitely something that doesn't ever help DC, and sometimes ends up being one of their pivotal nails in the coffin, if you will, when they come out with losses. I think to some extent that was true, just like typical with this game as well. There were other issues, I think, too. They had probably on both sides of the ball, but that's obviously a big one. The discipline factor is, going to kill you in the long run if you can't abstain from committing stupid, needless penalties, I guess, to leave it cut and dry. But
my thoughts on this game, I was really surprised with a couple things from DC. Number one, Coach Harris kind of comes across to me, and he always has been, that he's kind of a go for broke type of a coach. So when it got to be the fourth quarter, Orlando was up 24-16. DC was driving. They got down to the 25, and it come up with a 4th and 9. And rather than go for it for the 4th and 9 and try and score that touchdown and get the 2-point conversion to tie, he chose to go ahead and kick the field goal, get within 5, and then go ahead and try the 4th and 12 with 1:38 left in the game, I think, at that point.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird process from logic.
Because here's the deal. If you either way, you are going to have to take your chances on a 4th down play. Correct. Whether it be a 4th and 9 to keep the drive going, but keep in mind, on a 4th and 9, you get the first down, you're at least to the 15 or 16-yard line. So now you're looking at only needing another 15 yards for the touchdown that you need to make that game interesting. Instead, you kick the 3, and now you got to do a 4th and 12, but you're doing the 4th and 12 clear back on your own, 28-yard line?
Right.
And so if you do get the first down, well, then you still practically have the whole length of the field left to go with just a minute and 30 seconds left in the game. So it's a good breakdown. From my standpoint, I didn't understand it.
Yeah. Even if you don't have confidence in your defense, to your point, Ed, it's like, why would you not go for the shorter 4th down conversion than the longer one that's going to be more in your own territory and put you at greater risk of getting even a further deficit, to your point. So I see
and with the clock in 1:30 something.
Right.
It's not an issue if you're within 15 to 20 yards of a score. it is an issue when you're clear on the other side of the in your own territory.
Yeah.
So that was a real head scratcher for
scratcher.
me. Let's welcome to the show, Brett the Hitman. He looks like he handled the commute home rather well. He doesn't look too frazzled.
I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm trying to stay away from the dues, limit the cussing. I'm suspended from Facebook for a month, but one day at a time, we all fall short.
I think that has. Hey Amanda, thanks for joining. That isn't. I'll just leave it at that. It's not the first time that's happened, though, right, Brett?
No.
It's called having a strong will and voicing your opinion, right?
There you go.
Yeah, but I better not say anything. Some certain platforms can handle the truth and some cannot. So
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So also in this game, I was expecting that in addition to Spencer Sanders, I thought Jason Bean would get his chance to at least do a series or two, just to see how it went. Now they're kind of put in a precarious position because now not only, to me, it looks like he has every intention of Spencer Sanders being his quarterback going forward.
Right.
But then when you start thinking Spencer Sanders or Jason Bean, then comes into the picture the fact that they signed E.J. Perry, who's well known in the league for the last couple of years. Started with the Michigan Panthers for a while, and I think he went on to Memphis, didn't he, Brett?
Yeah, he ran for his life in Memphis. He was not walking in Memphis; he was running.
And so now I really, I got to believe that E.J. Perry was a depth move to at least to give him another option. But I got to believe that it's still the Jason Bean, Spencer Sanders show. But it almost looks to me like he plans on riding and dying with Spencer Sanders.
Well, there was some breaking news today. I'm glad I could make it, by the way, on the show. Can't get there on time, just get here when you can. That's always been my philosophy for 46 years. So, why mess up a good thing? Bean reportedly is really learning the offense well, has taken about half the snaps this week. I called it last week that I thought Bean would end up being the quarterback. We shall see, but I would be floored if he doesn't get at least a half this weekend. At least a half. We shall see.
We got a DC fan weighing in saying that's probably more die than ride for DC. So he's kind of lost a little faith. But, in answer to that comment, Coach Harris comes out and he basically says this. He comes out with a post and it says, to the doubters, to clinch a playoff berth is a huge moment for our team, but we know the job's not finished. We're going to reestablish who we are and do it with the championship effort. We did what we had to do in the front half of the schedule to put ourselves in this position now. Our focus is continuing to build momentum as we chase another championship. So that's head coach Shannon Harris's message to everyone that's willing to throw in the towel for DC. I don't ever count out DC. I think that they've got the type of a defense that's going to keep them in a game. It just comes down to whether offensively they can figure it out.
I think in retrospect to the whole whether or not to play Bean consideration. I think all things considered, and we can get into more of the weeds on the whole tie-breaking thing, I've taken my time to look through the nuance of it, so I think I understand how they denoted that DC has locked it down. That being said, if choosing between week 9 and week 10 to essentially give Bean his shot, I think they are playing their cards right to do it in week 10. Notably, if it need true, which I believe it is, the playoff lock is now secured, which it wasn't prior to week 9. Additionally, on top of that, if you look up kind of this back-to-back slate with Orlando, they have, considerable advantage, if you want to call it that. It all depends on the fan base in Washington, D.C. showing up, but having home field advantage in some games makes a difference. And I think, them staying with it being the week 10 just kind of lines up more preferably that they would give Bean his shot this upcoming weekend if they choose to do so at all. I think it would be smart, Ed, to your point, for them to try it out just to see if he has, a spark of brilliance and see if he can materialize his former glory from way back in week 1 on this new team. But nobody's going to know until you give him that game day exposure and opportunity. So
again, you got to remember too, he was the starter on that Louisville team for a reason. And if anyone knows about quarterback play, it's the head coach. Yeah. And now the gentleman that has replaced Bean has done a phenomenal job. And if we look back on how Bean did play the first 2 or 3 weeks, kid looked pretty good. He made some mistakes. Everybody is beat that dead horse. But again, we all know who's the most popular player on the football field when your team is struggling. It's who? It's the backup quarterback. And I sit in the stands, as an Alabama fan, as a Birmingham Stallions fan, where, everybody started chanting the other quarterback's name, and every time the other quarterback breathed, everybody would boo. And, just all of a sudden when the coach does throw the other quarterback in, you can feel the mood change. Now, you can catch lightning in a bottle. I've seen it. And I know you fellas have too, by doing that. And I still think, from what I've seen out of the current DC player, Sanders, whatever his name is, I think Bean's the better player. And I think you throw Bean in start of the third quarter, or maybe the last drive of the second quarter, the fans will light up, the teammates will light up, and look, it's all a game. It's all a mind game. Yeah, Harris already knows what he's going to do. I mean, he already knows.
So I've been called a lot of things in my day. But the three of us being referred to as vomiters of media and opinion.
He was thinking of me when he said that. He don't even have to be polite.
So if we don't have anything, I guess we never really talked about Orlando. So let's talk a little bit about Orlando. I guess you got to say one thing about Orlando. As much as I'm not gonna jump on the bandwagon now, because my opinion still hasn't changed until the narrative has changed. But you got to hand it to Orlando. If you talk about a level of consistency for the year, for the full regular season, Orlando has played respectable football from beginning to end.
But they really have. And I'm kind of like you, Ed, though I keep waiting on that shoe to drop. But I'll say this. You look, again, I'm a defensive guy. If Bugs is healthy, Orlando's going to stay in these games. They've got a very big physical defensive line. They're tough. I like their ground and pound style, but my goodness, their quarterback has just been, looks like Beck is finally releasing the reins a little bit. Now, I think he's a better play action quarterback. I don't think they're going to spread it out 4 or 5 wide and necessarily hurt you, although they always could with Roland in the slot. But man, that guy doesn't off play action. He doesn't hardly miss. Orlando's I will be floored if they lose in the first round of the playoffs. But we've seen it so many times with Beck in St. Louis. But
well, there's been talk starting up now that Jack Plummer is the leading candidate for the MVP award. I would say if they're going to give it to an offensive player, then yeah, that's probably the case. But there's some strong cases for defense this year too. To when you talk about the MVP, I mean Cam Gill with Louisville has been a complete beast this year. So I don't know. I don't think it's over yet. So let's go ahead. Let's move on to the next game. And that, Brett, I'm sure Birmingham had the lead in this game for, what'd you say, Brett? 58 and a half minutes?
58 and a half minutes. Problem is the game is 60. It's 60, AJ, not 58 and a half. It's 60 minutes. I wonder, AJ, do you still like your guys on the defensive line? Because last time I checked, they went through another game and got 0 sacks. And I know, AJ, I'm just a fan, and I know we don't know anything and you know everything. But I do know one thing. This is the 5th year of the Birmingham Stallions. They've made it to the playoffs every year except for this one. That much I do know, AJ.
But
I'm done.
He addressed that question earlier in the year, and his response was, in the prior years, they had basically a roster that returned year after year after year where he had to put a brand new roster together.
Well, you know what they say about excuses, Eduardo, and it's kind of like something that everybody's got. And keep in mind, Birmingham and AJ was not by themselves. They wasn't the only team that could only protect 10 guys and start all over. No, that was every team. So you're telling me that AJ and his coaches wasn't good with talent evaluation, maybe? Or were they just not capable coaches? Something. It was something. Because, you know, Birmingham still has a mathematical shot at getting in the playoffs. I don't think they're getting past Houston Saturday. I think Houston's going to finish their season with a victory, but I guess we'll get into that later. Look, I knew Birmingham was in trouble in the first half of this game because, again, the defense all year long on 3rd and 4th and long, they cannot get off the field. They cannot get off the field. Secondary, they play way too much zone coverage. The guys, half of them don't know which person they're supposed to take. When we rush 4, we don't have a shot. When we rush 5 or 6, we get a little bit of pressure, and we leave the cornerbacks out on the island. It's been the same old song every week. And we ran into a quarterback that, it was a good move for Ted Ginn Jr. and for Columbus. They really had nothing to lose. And the guy had played with Birmingham, was on their roster a couple of years, and, here recently, and didn't get much playing time. It was lightning in a bottle. It was perfect, and it was against a perfect team that struggles to get pressure on the quarterback and has all season long.
But having said that, let's play devil's advocate a little bit, and you can tell me where I'm wrong on this. To me, the Birmingham offense has been abysmal. And so you have to give the Birmingham defense some credit for keeping them in these ball games because, with lack of a special teams play where they block a kick and run it back for a touchdown, or, get a pick six for a touchdown. Or it's really, if you look at offensive performance for Birmingham, it's been pretty bleak. So what does that say about the fact that Birmingham's defense, like you say, they can't get off the field, but they're always on the field, not because the offense time of possession just isn't there.
Well, they haven't really been able to run the ball all year, but it's been the same old damn tired play calling on first down every time. Inside trap. Oh, we didn't gain anything, so it's 2nd and 10. Inside trap. Oh, we got a yard that time, 2nd and 9. Oh, inside trap. We got 2 yards. I remember us and some of the fans in the stand communicating. I said, oh, hell, we got 2 yards on that one. So 5 more plays like that, we'll get a first down. It's been, and again, I know I'm spoiled, and I know the Stallions fans are spoiled. But look, and this is a team again which I couldn't figure out for the life of me why they were preseason favorite by DraftKings or whatever to win it. Now I did say, and that talent wise, I thought from A to Z, they won the draft. There's a couple of players they lost and didn't come. The big guard that played with the Battlehawks forever, a tackle. Rodrigo at kicker. The kicking position has been dreadful for Birmingham this year. And then, of course, we have, out of the 5 starters we ended up starting the season with, 4 of them is out for the season. And AJ's so quick to make excuses, but before all those guys were getting hurt, like you said, this offense has been a roller coaster at best. It's really, other than one game this year, it has absolutely underperformed. And that was, again, long before we lost our 2nd and our 3rd and our 4th lineman. So, I don't know what to say to try to defend AJ and defend what happened this season, because I don't think it's over. I really do. Saturday, I think Houston's going to kick their ass, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I just hope that AJ, being born and raised in Alabama just like I've been, I hope he understands, and I know he does, that this is unacceptable. So I don't know what the plans are for next year, if they're going to stay at Protective, if they're going to move to the Met, if they're going to even move the team. I don't know. Rapoli has done a dreadful job of any type of PR when it comes to the Birmingham fan base, and nobody knocks Birmingham worse than I do. And I live less than an hour from there. I don't know what's going to happen next season, but if you bring AJ back in Birmingham, you might as well go ahead and move the team, and that's it is what it is. 4 and 6 is not acceptable. It's not even close to acceptable.
So, KJ, I know you were pretty high on Jalen McClendon at the beginning of the season. And this, one thing you can say about Columbus has been formidable with their home games. They've had a lot of games this year. They've been competitive. So the 3-6 record that they have right now, maybe it is indicative of the type of team they've been, but they've been a quality team this year. So Jalen McClendon gets pulled, and they put in Jalen Morton. And his first start of the year gained him Player of the Week honors. So what's your thoughts on Columbus's performance in this game? Especially with a change of quarterback.
I mean, I definitely think the timing of making the switch to Jalen was super smart, and we saw the result of that on the field. I think both him and McClendon have mobility capabilities, but for whatever reason, Jalen just seemed to dictate greater pocket presence, I guess you could say, both in his passing capabilities, but also in his awareness of when, the tangible moments when things started to break down and him, responding immediately to kick it into gear, rolling out to the flats, or fully just scrambling to pick up yardage when necessary and available. I think his presence there as a leader for the offense was much more demonstrative and well noticed. I think, honestly, looking back over the stats, I'm going to brag on a ex-Houston guy here, but I think this was arguably Kiki Chisholm's game of the year. He had one other game back in week 4 when they played Dallas where he had just shy of 1 yard in the same stat column for receptions, but he was also able to score a touchdown. I think that's more of a contextual difference, really, if you get down to the nuts and bolts of it with play calling. But some of the passes he made this game were super contested, whether he was being seal covered or even double covered in some instances, and still able to go up and get the ball. He put on, in my opinion, almost a what's his face from St. Louis's level performance. You know who I'm thinking of, Ed. But regardless, I think they played well on both sides of the ball, and both on the ground and in the air. The biggest thing that stood out to me looking back over kind of some of the stat lines was, both of these teams had at least one interception in the game. The difference being Columbus was able to capitalize on that turnover and change of possession at least one of the 2 occurrences in which they did pick off Dorian Thompson, DTR. So they were able to pull out, 7 points or what have you from one of those turnovers, whereas the Stallions were unable to do so with the one pick they were able to take from Jalen. So I think, that's a notable distinction you have to look at. Both of these defenses, played relatively hard through the majority of the game, but I think to Brett's point, it was just like when the, push comes to shove and it really comes down to the critical moments where you have to hold the line, if you will, defensively. Birmingham just could not do what was necessary to hold the lead in this game. Unfortunate for sure, but it is what it is. He's not, this isn't something foreign or new that we're talking about this week. I think Brett's harped on their concerns on, whether it be the ground or the air defensive side of the ball for almost all season. So, I think that's something that hopefully AJ makes an effort to address both in this week and in the upcoming offseason, because obviously it's going to matter more, I think, next year. But, they still have a chance here to salvage things and try to make the playoffs. So we'll see what happens.
So, Brett, here, one of our viewers brought up the fact that this was a highly viewed game for Birmingham and Columbus. Here's the numbers that you sent me today for the game. Pretty impressive for ABC. What is it? Their second most watched game this season.
Yeah, I think it's our third or fourth to average over 1 million this year, which I think they only hit 2 last year. So that's another positive sign on the viewership. I sent you the tweet by Mike Rapoli. I don't know if you loaded it or not, but if you didn't load it, I'll probably just leave that alone. But it was really good for the league, in my opinion.
Yeah. So where do we, as far as Jalen Morton is concerned, he obviously earned a start in week 10. We all know that there's been talk all season about the fact that part of the spring football appeal that needs to improve to not only put butts in seats, but also increase viewership is better, well-known quarterbacks playing in this league, whether it be practice squad, NFL quarterbacks that the NFL agrees to release to get experience, whatnot. But does a performance like this by Jalen, with it being his first starting game, he had a 96 yards rushing with a TD, 213 yards and 3 passing TDs. he obviously gets another start, but does it also put him in line to possibly be brought back to the UFL next season? I would have to say that it does.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that was such an exciting game, and I had messages people sending that it was the best game of the year. They thought one of the top two games of the year. Of course, I didn't think so because I was involved with it, and I was not pleased from the get go. And again, some of our I'm just not pleased. I'm just not. I just want. Can we fucking go to the next game, please? I mean,
To your point, Ed, I think it's a double-edged sword, and we know this, for anybody that's a seasoned fan of the league and has followed spring ball for at least, I'd say, since last season, they probably have picked up on this if they followed any of the off-season traffic movement up and down between, the NFL and here in college, is that, you kind of walk a tightrope as a UFL player in the sense that, yeah, you do well, to your point, Ed, it will increase your propensity to be brought back in the following season. But correspondingly, which most of these, if not all of these guys, hope for in the long run, is that the positive production they have on the field in their season with the UFL is going to produce them opportunities to go play in the NFL. So it's kind of a delicate middle ground you want to play with almost as a fan or as a UFL upper head, in that you want to see these guys do really well, but you almost also want to see them not do so well that they leave because they get an NFL opportunity. You want them to get the notoriety from the fandom existing, grow the fandom, and then return the following season to help kind of, as Brett mentioned, and you have too mentioned, to stir that interest because of the notable name, brand, notoriety of those specific players. And we've had that from season to season. There's obviously been some guys that have moved up, some that have returned, and some guys that are thoroughbreds being football players, whether it's Luis Perez or whoever else you want to notate. There's plenty of guys to reference. So I think that's kind of the tightrope you walk as a player. Is if you do too good, the UFL wants you back, but you may not have to come back because you may get that dream offer from the NFL to move up. So.
Well, and remember, Oliver Luck with XFL 2020, and I know I bring this up almost every show, he was onto something with this. That was why he went after a lot of those bigger name quarterbacks, and those quarterbacks in XFL 2020 got paid more. Some of them didn't, but there was, some big names at the time. But I don't know how that would equate now that they've got a whatever the players agreement, with those fools, and that's what they are, trying to intervene and say, well, if you're going to pay these quarterbacks $150,000 a year, you got to pay all the other players $120,000. I don't know with the collective bargain agreement. I think there's 1 year left on it. Thank goodness. That's going to be real interesting between those idiots and Mike Rapoli next season in the off season. I just.
Only other thing I'll say with regards to the whole quarterback comment, and I definitely think it's wise to abdicate, as y'all said, for them trying to make some type of agreement with the NFL, because obviously that notoriety would bring added eyes to the league. There's no doubt about it. Right. It's also kind of a delicate waltz and dance almost, because I feel like I'm thinking through this in my head conceptually. I forget if it was Marty or whoever made the comment earlier, Brett, about you not mentioning the Bears in your QB rant, and I was going to make a Case Keenum advertisement. But anyways, point being, with all that being said, with the NFL QBs that exist, I think it's a weird conundrum that the UFL would be posed with if they try to go after that, because you're going to have to look for guys that are still young enough that they care about getting those game time reps. A guy like Case Keenum, though, I would love for him to play for the Gamblers, and we could theoretically sell out Shell Energy Stadium if he was our starting quarterback. That guy's never going to take a UFL offer because he's all the way at the tail end of his career. He's comfortable making seven figures as a third, fourth string QB in Chicago. He doesn't need, the game time reps. He knows where he's at in his career. So I say all that to say, you got to find this perfect middle ground of either young guys that are third on the QB depth chart, or they're a practice squad QB who in the past couple of years were starters but fell out of fanfare or fandom with the NFL upper heads. And those are the guys the UFL have to kind of capitalize on, because they're really the only ones they're going to be able to sell on coming to play in the spring league. So,
Well, and this brings up to the point of, and one thing I really think that Mike made a boo boo on before the season started, and that was him mentioning, if the guy's been in the league 2-3 years, it's time for them to retire. That was a huge error. And again, he says, look, I've been doing this 9 months. I'm learning as I go, and he is. But the Breland Speaks and a lot of these people, fan favorites. If they want to play in the league and they're good enough to play in the league, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Hell, those are the players that Mr. Rapoli needs to definitely try to keep, because the fans have done latched on to him. Hey, that's one of my favorite players. They got a jersey with, Breland Speaks Speaks' name and number on it. They've had conversations with him at events. They've done, just Mike really needs to rethink that. And he hasn't said it again. So hopefully maybe he learned that's not how you endear yourself to the fan base.
With that said, let's move on to the next game, like Brett is requesting. Dallas Renegades went into Louisville and lost by 14. Is there any hotter team in the league right now than Louisville? Started 1-3, but they've won 4 of their last 5. But then again, you flip the coin to the other side of the coin, and Dallas has become one of the UFL's big mysteries. Starting 3-0, been 0-7 since. And you can kind of start saying, when they lost 1, 2, 3 in a row, you could still see Coach Neuheisel and Austin Reed sticking tight. But now I think there's a little bit of a leak in the dam here this last game. It looks like Coach Neuheisel is finally reaching the end of his rope with some of Austin Reed's decision-making. So what do you guys think? You think week 10 they'll go ahead and let's talk about the game first, but then I'm going to ask you about what you think about Dallas going forward in week 10. But this game, again, Dallas starts out, holds tight with Louisville. Close game really throughout. Dallas just, Louisville pulled away at the end. But I don't know. I guess what I saw more and more during the game was that when Austin Reed would come off the field, Coach Neuheisel would meet him and talk to him about the frustrations of what he didn't do. And that's kind of a change in Coach's kind of air that he's carried on the sideline. So it just goes to the level of frustration I think he is dealing with here at this point in the season. But I saw a post in Facebook, and it was basically a question as to whether Dallas should bring Coach Neuheisel back again for another season. I don't know how you guys feel, but I don't know. I like the guy. I mean, that doesn't make him a good coach. I realize that. But you talk about engaging with the media, with the fan base, calling a spade, talking about expectations with his team. You can't get any more forthright than what he's been as a head coach. So what else do you want? I think that you can find fault with all the coaches, but I think him, for one, I'd like to see him come back. But can either of you put your finger on just what happened?
I almost want to throw it and chalk it up to, we see this a lot in college, and there's so much dictation between a coach that's a good recruiter and a coach that's just a good coach, but they're not good at, picking out the talent. Not to say that, Dallas didn't draft some good guys, but I still echo the same sentiment. Outside of 1 or 2 notable receivers, and a few other folks, Dallas wasn't like Columbus. It wasn't like Birmingham where their holistic roster was jumping off the page at you, in my opinion.
So
And I just-
KJ, you bring up a good point. Let's talk about that. You know, they in a cost-cutting move to save money for the league, they got rid of the general managers and put the onus on picking players on the coaching staff.
Right.
Do you think, because AJ with Birmingham's kind of been accused of the same thing, that coaches coach, but throughout the season when Birmingham needed help,
Right.
and I know I asked him one week, and I know there was other people in the pressers that asked him in other weeks, are you looking outside to bring anybody in? And he got very defensive and basically said, my players are all here. We don't have time to go outside and look for other players.
Right.
We ride and die with who we've got on the roster. Well, that's a coach with tunnel vision getting ready for the next week game, but they don't have that general manager that has the big picture and does the player search and tries to bring in the talent. So could that possibly be a problem with Dallas as well? That if you bring back general managers to the league, could it help teams maybe adjust during the year to be able to not have, Birmingham's injury problem with four starting linemen going out and talking about not really having the ability to replace them? Well, I mean, to me, that just brings the point more to the forefront that is the general manager piece important in this league?
I mean, it definitely served its role, I think, last year. I'll be the devil's advocate here to say I don't think Dallas is a casebook, cut and dry example of proof of that we need them without a doubt. And the reason I say that is because, you look at them releasing Luis to St. Louis, other teams making changes all throughout the season, maybe not an immediate in terms of the first 3 weeks, but post week 3, every team was, almost every week was either releasing somebody, trading for another player from another team. So this whole, I almost have to throw the BS flag on Neuheisel's comment there that you referenced about, I don't have time to do this. It's like, okay, well, if that's true, why do you even waste the time releasing your second string QB unless it was just a knee-jerk reaction to pick up a desperate need on the defensive side of the ball? I think it was a D lineman or DN, I forget who they picked up from Louisville in that original trade when they released Perez. But all that to say, I guess, if you have the ability to do that in the midst of the season, I can't necessarily believe there's 100% truth in you making the comment about you don't have the time to do that. I get it. The week's compressed. I'm not a coach. I've never been there. I can only, estimate on how stressful it is from day to day when you're rolling from one game to the next in the upcoming week. I get it. It's probably immense pressure, especially when you're having to make adjustments and you see, major exposures, chinks in the armor that have been exposed from the prior weekend, and you're trying to capitalize and make adjustments based on those. But all that said, I mean, it's all a dollars and cents thing. It's when it's coming down to it, the end of the line. I think Rapoli obviously made his choice from a dollars and cents viewpoint. I think the bigger thing in my eyes, and I would assume Neuheisel has the knowledge as a coach to do this. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone younger like AJ, I'd probably be the greater advocate for, but it's like, while the coach is enlisted with that primary responsibility, you can only hope that each of these HCs are, dissecting extensively the brains of all of their respective positional group and respective coordinators, because those guys are more, even than the head coach, boots on the ground, seeing the individual production by each player. In my opinion, to your point, the head coach manages the coaching staff. It truly is a people management position, similar to the positional coaches and the OC and the DC, but they're more focused on their specific players under their, responsibility load. So I hope they're getting the input from these guys going, hey, do you think this guy's a good draft pickup? Do you think we should go after this guy? Are they spending the full amount of time a GM would? No, probably not, to your point, Ed. But I don't know if it's worth doing, I guess is the best way I'd put it.
Well, I think the biggest chink in Coach Neuheisel's armor is going to be the trading Luis Perez away to St. Louis for basically a backup offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Because obviously, when Austin Reed started to struggle, Luis would have been put in. I mean, they gave them an option B that once they traded him away, really took that bullet away from him. So he's kind of just had to go ahead and ride and die with Austin Reed, and it just hasn't worked out.
Right.
But you can try and put it all on Austin Reed's shoulders, but the Dallas defense has kind of let him down too. Dallas started pretty strong on defense this season, and they've kind of course, it's a team. It's a team concept, man. If the offense is struggling, that means the defense is out there longer. The defense gets tired. They give up more yards. It's all relative. So it's a team game. That's why it's a team game. And so now looking at Louisville on the other side of the coin, love Coach Redmond too. Seen a lot of his pressers. Went through the pressers in the beginning of the season when they started 1-3. You could tell he was kind of trying to find his footing, kind of get this whole head coach thing under wraps. But I tell you what, the light went on, after their loss to St. Louis at home. That back-to-back doubleheader with DC turned the lights on, and they're not looking back. And the whole team as a whole is arguably playing the best football. And I know that Louisville played a back-to-back with Orlando beginning of the season. It was the first half of the season. And at that time, we didn't give Orlando much credit because we felt like Orlando's wins were kind of not tainted, but they weren't like a wow factor because it was just Louisville. Well, since then, Louisville has shown that they are a team to be reckoned
You timed that perfectly. Man, I'm starving. I'm sorry. I just got home.
No, we're talking about, we just started talking about Louisville. We've already kind of let Dallas conversation go. We're talking about Louisville, probably one of the two hottest teams in the league right now. What's your thoughts on Louisville heading into the final week?
I still think Redmond and the coaching staff needs to loosen up the play calling a little bit. I think it really put them behind the 8 ball with St. Louis. There's some squads you're just not going to be able to run on. And the conservative play calling, I think he loosened up a little bit as the seasons went on, and you've seen how much better the offense and the team in general has performed. The defense is really good. McGill, and they've got a few other guys out there that I really enjoy watching. They've got a linebacker and a free safety that flies around the field. Louisville could absolutely, win this thing. I think it's up in the air at this point.
I think the biggest attributes they have, in my opinion, that stick out positively is they seem to be one of the most well-balanced teams overall, and I think that's evident through what we see week in and week out. That also being said, I think Brett may agree with me here. I'm not sure, but I think if you took Tanner Brown and put him on the Stallions this entire season, Birmingham might have 2 more wins automatically just on that single player change alone. So, I mean, they're highlighting what value there is in having a near perfect field goal kicker on their team. Like, there is a value add there without a doubt, and they're benefiting from it. So,
and I got to give AJ credit about that, because to me, he drafted the best kicker out there with Rodrigo. Rodrigo really, and I think it's obvious, he really made a big mistake by doing what he did. And there's no doubt Birmingham's got one more victory, possibly 2. But yeah, they are so balanced. I just feel like I think Louisville can beat Orlando. I think Louisville can beat DC, obviously. It's a bad matchup against St. Louis. It seemed like they were just bound and determined to try to run on that front. And, before you know it, you just kind of grind it down. And then, you're behind the whole game. And so the pass rushers on St. Louis side pin their ears back. Wasn't a good game plan against St. Louis, but if he'll loosen up some of the play calling, I think Louisville has the ability to probably beat any of the teams that they'll be facing in the playoffs.
So Brett, we got a concerned viewer here.
It's like, don't walk away with that. Put it back up.
Earlier he saw you drinking a healthy drink. And now
it looks like a Subway sub. I think he's on the Jared diet, Marty. It looks like he's checking all the boxes.
So
it's Jimmy John.
Oh, Jimmy John. Even better.
Jimmy John. At first, I thought that looked like a burrito. When you took that first bite, I thought it was a burrito, and I thought maybe, just maybe, that it was leftover from earlier this month, and maybe you froze it and just thawed it out today when you celebrated the Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, Lord. I would love to see a wig on Brett's head like that. That would be epic.
Because I saw this picture of Brett, and I'm sure it brings back the good old days of when Brett was in rare form. And so, oh God, that's
still in rare form.
Oh God. So anyway, let's move on to the last game so we can get that past this and get on to bigger and better things. KJ, I'm going to let you go first on this game. This was the second half of the doubleheader in Houston, the St. Louis Battlehawks, who needed a win going in to clinch a playoff spot. And they were able to scratch the win out. But let's just say I use the word scratch very lightly. So take it away, KJ, and I'll comment on the other end.
I'm going to let y'all discuss this game. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Obviously, a disappointing loss. I'll preface everything I say following with, despite the loss, they were, arguably in it nearly the entire game still, despite the struggle points, which, I still commend our defense for. I think despite our losses and such, I think, we had and still have, I think, one of the best defenses in the league. Offensively, it's a reoccurring, unfortunately, seems like an annual issue for our Houston beloved squad is that offense has just not been able to get up to that kind of, like I mentioned before, Louisville Kings balance across the ball. Houston's not been able to match up there, unfortunately, consistently throughout the entirety of the season. I know Deckers unfortunately got injured. I think it was third quarter or into the third, beginning of the fourth there when he got fully subbed out for Plumlee. I don't want to throw the blame on him per se too much because I just know St. Louis did an excellent job on the defensive line front, keeping the pressure on him. That's partially, I think, what contributed to some of the sacks that Plumlee had. But it just didn't materialize. I mean, it's really what it came down to. Clutch situation, clutch moments again where we just could not seal and deliver and get into the end zone in certain instances. So, yeah.
For those of you that have followed closely here over the past year, you'll know that I struggled last year with some health issues. So what the St. Louis Battlehawks are failing to realize how hard they're being on my ticker, because out of their 6-3 record, their point differential is only a +19 over 9 games. So I mean, that's just a little over 2 points a game victory-wise. I know that I watched the game from around the campfire. We had a TV strung up out at the campground. And the one thing that we were commenting on halftime, St. Louis was really bailed out with that, what was it, a 42-yard, 40-some-yard pass play from Luis Perez to Butler right at halftime.
Yep.
That basically allowed them to go into the locker room 1 point up versus being down 6. And that was really the tale of 2 weeks, because Houston pretty much had a lead on St. Louis the prior week for pretty much the whole game. And so I'm trying to understand the St. Louis team and the fact that defense, yes, they do have a good defense. However, if you look at their games, the defense seems to, if they struggle at all, they struggle in the first half. And I know football is a game of adjustments. And I know at halftime they probably make the needed adjustments and they come out and they were really able to shut Houston down in the second half both weeks. So from that standpoint, I still say the defense has more in them. I still think that if the defense is going to be as stout as what it appears that they try to make St. Louis out to be, the defense being strong, which they are, very strong defense, led by the defensive line and the quickness of the defensive line. Because from big boys they got in the middle too, they play just as much havoc as Feeney and Pita do on the outside. It's a team effort there on the defensive line for sure. But I still say the best defense is still ahead of St. Louis, because I think they have to solve it seems like the defensive backfield is still playing a little soft, still giving up way too many passes, especially on third downs and relatively long. Too many drives are being kept alive. But to me, the bigger issue with St. Louis still is their offense. Now, this game in particular, I know that Ja'Cour Pearson had a costly fumble when St. Louis was down in the red zone, but that's going to happen. I mean, fumbles are going to happen. So Ja'Cour's done a great job in the last 3 weeks or so of becoming relevant in the offense again. He is a true slot receiver that's getting open and making big plays for St. Louis. But it's somehow between McBride and Blake Jackson and Ja'Cour Pearson and Hakeem Butler, Jarmian Howard, a running back with, James and Latulis, with all the talent that they've got on the offensive side of the ball, for some reason they just can't get it to click. And I don't know, AJ Smith, I still have faith in you, man, but we got to go. St. Louis has got to go now. We've got week 10 to finally get things rolling, because when the playoffs start, we got to be on the top of our game, whatever the top of that game is. So when you look at Hakeem Butler's performance, Hakeem Butler is still a man amongst boys, so to speak. And I say that from a physical presence, not so much ability, but he just seems like if you throw the ball high, he's going to come down with it. But when you look at his stats from week to week to week, you still come away from these games saying that he's being underutilized. But having said that, I saw this post today, which I thought was very interesting when it comes to Hakeem Butler. I just got to find it. I tell you what, before the show, I am pulling down so much info into this. They're trying to get this. Okay, here we go. Found it finally. Butler, heading into the final week, needs 112 receiving yards to break the UFL single season record of 670 yards that right now is held by Ja'Cour Pearson, which he set in 2023. So I'm sure there's not any razzing going on amongst the team there over that one. He also needs just 84 yards to break his personal record of 652 yards that he set in 2024. So I'm going to step out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that's a record that St. Louis is going to make a effort in Week 10 for Hakeem Butler to hit. Let's bring Brett back on for some final thoughts on this game now that he's content and got a full stomach. And
Yeah, it's about nap 30. I just got to feed the fur babies now, and I'm going to crash out. It's been real, y'all.
I'll say this, Ed, if they are looking to help him check that proverbial personal historic stat box, they're going to need to go back into the historic game day film and look back at week 3 and 4, because it isn't since then that he's been able to surpass 80 yards in a game. And I'm sure that has mostly to do with play calling, I would think, especially when one of those games where he hit that over 100-yard mark in yardage was against DC. I mean, arguably one of the better teams in the league. So clearly there's some difference in play calling that occurred there to contribute to that, if they want to help him do that. But
yeah, I don't. Go ahead, Brett.
Well, no, I was just going to say, it seems to me like how Hakeem's getting treated in the league right now, and again, this is coming from a lifelong Lakers fan. He's kind of being treated like Shaq was back in the day. You know, they would let Shaq take a lot more contact than a lot of other guys because he was just so big, and they just, you know, it's kind of like what they did with Cam Newton until Shaq would finally just snap, you know, and throw a ball at Charles Barkley's head, and they would be chasing each other up and down the hall. But Hakeem Butler definitely, the cornerbacks have really gotten extremely physical with him, if y'all noticed the second half of the season. And for the most part, on a lot of close calls or calls that probably should have went St. Louis's way, have not gone their way. And it's simply because, hell, Hakeem's bigger than anybody that's covering him. He's longer. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he's faster, too. So he's not exactly, and, you know, that's God-given, and you can't necessarily punish a guy for that. But I've seen it for years, you know, watching Shaquille O'Neal in Los Angeles and everywhere else he was. So I think that's got a lot to do with why Hakeem hasn't necessarily had a lot of yards here recently. It's not that they have went away from him. It's not that he hasn't been playing well. It's just, hell, the cornerbacks are beating him half to death, and the refs are kind of just, Ed, am I wrong on that?
No, and I've really held back on the show because I don't want to be labeled as a homer. But it's, you know, I of course don't miss home games, but I watch all the games multiple times every week. And the frustration level of Hakeem Butler is very visible because, you know, it used to be that if a defender arm bars the receiver, does anything that prevents the receiver from having the ability to move his arms to catch a pass, that it was instant flag. And it's almost like they try to throw the ball high to him, but the cornerbacks have basically prevented him from being able to use his arms, and it's not being called.
Right.
And so I know that Coach Prohl, I can only imagine what's been said behind the scenes, because I've seen enough of his pressers to know how frustrated he is on the lack of calls by the referees when it comes to Hakeem Butler. That I know KJ, before halftime, when Perez threw the touchdown pass to Hakeem Butler, and it looked like Hakeem Butler may have used his hand to kind of swipe the receiver away to be able to catch the ball to go in. And right away, it's like, throw the challenge flag, throw the challenge flag. And I'm like, if they throw a challenge flag and they take a touchdown away from Butler after all the shit that he's gone through this season, the way he's been covered. So, I mean, they evidently looked at it and never even said it was good. But KJ, don't you think that would have been a super challenge possibility for your head coach, that they would? What did they have to lose at that point?
I mean, for any other coach besides Kevin Sumlin, yes, I would echo that unequivocally. But you're talking about the least self-aware coach with regards to his capabilities on the sidelines of anybody in the league. So that
was arguably the biggest play of the game, at least for the first half, because it totally switched.
Right. No, I agree with you. Like, going into halftime, having the lead that's a mental chess game box check that you as a team want to have. And I think to your point too, it's, while every defense has to be clutch to some extent when they're called upon to stop the opposing team, it definitely is easier mentally to come out and go, okay, we're just coming out here to do our job, but we're here to play and have fun, that sort of thing, versus, oh crap, we're down, we got to stop them on every drive so our offense can make a comeback kind of thing. So I agree with you in the sense that it makes a difference when you can go into the lead in halftime and kind of the mental semantics of the game. So
let's do this.
Oh, real quick. I got an update on this game. Real quick. Reportedly earlier, as I was driving home before my phone went dead and I got stuck behind an accident and sitting on the interstate for 2 hours, Austin, somebody sent me a message, a fan of the show, and Austin, what's his name? What's the backup in St. Louis? Help me out.
The backup, Harrison Frost?
I think he was going to be named the starter. Wait, no. Maybe I was okay. Maybe he was just going to play a half or something. I got reported, anyways. Screw it.
Figure it out, Ed. Jesus.
Take it to commercial.
Well, no, I think I saw a post earlier this week, and it was a post of the Battlehawks in practice, and it, like you said, Brett, it showed Harrison Frost at the helm. But just like Kiala says here, exactly what I was saying. There's a video of Frost at practice this week. So what does that mean? Does that mean that in week 10 that they both play a half?
Yeah, I think so.
Because let's face it, Coach Prohl was big on Harrison Frost, and that's why it took so long to turn it over to Luis Perez, because I figured that they would give this by the second week he would be starting. And what did it take? Third or fourth week before they actually gave him the helm? I think it was the third week.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but I got to think, though, still at this point, that I would still be surprised if Luis was pulled as the starter at this point in the season. Would you? I mean, would you guys agree? I mean,
Oh yeah.
I think if the offense starts slow again in the first half, and it's just been painful in the first half. It seems like they're a second half team. But all it takes, especially with the playoffs coming, you dig a hole too deep in the first half, you're not coming back. Not with the quality of teams that that are gonna be in the Final Four. So let's do this. We've still got to go through the players of the week. We're going to do that real quick. And then we got to get to Brett's power rankings of the final season ending power rankings, because next week, well, I'm sure Brett will unveil his power rankings for the 4 playoff teams. But let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we will put a wrap on week 9. We'll be right back. We are back. Let's start off. Brett does this every time I go on a break, doesn't he? Let's go ahead and remove him. Let's start off with the offensive player of the week. And we alluded to it when we went over the Columbus-Birmingham game. Jalen Morton, 96 yards rushing, 1 touchdown, 213 yards passing with 3 TDs. His first start of the year was definitely a breakout performance. On the defensive side of the ball, I didn't see a posting in Facebook for the defensive player in the year, of the week, I should say. But I can tell you that it was Orlando's Darian Butler. He is linebacker, had 11 tackles, 6 solo, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 pass breakup. And then for special teams, for the last 2 weeks straight, this is his 3rd time that he's won it this year. Tanner Brown, he went 3 for 3 in field goals. His long was 54. He set a UFL record this last week. He hit his 24th field goal, which is a league record.
Wow.
So Louisville has definitely got themselves a weapon.
Yeah,
They've got themselves a weapon heading into the playoffs. And as tough as their defense has been, Louisville's one of those teams that can play the field goal game for sure. And they will come out more times than not. So standings after week 9. My computer better not start leaving me out to dry here. Orlando 7-2, but they are not guaranteed the number 1 seed yet, because St. Louis beat them head-to-head. So the St. Louis win, Orlando loss, St. Louis would get the number 1 seed. With DC and Louisville at 5-4, it really comes down to Louisville and Birmingham. Birmingham has to win, Louisville has to lose. Basically, is what it comes down to. So Birmingham will be playing early enough. They will actually have their game done before Louisville plays. So Louisville is going to know what they have to do well before the game. And as Eric says here with Tanner Brown, that Louisville better enjoy him while they have him. It was kind of like Jake Bates. I mean,
yeah,
he was borrowed goods. And, last year, Rodrigo for the Battlehawks missed only one field goal the whole year, and that was a 54-yarder that clanked off the crossbar. Otherwise, he would have had a perfect season, and you'd have thought he was gone too. In fact, Coach Beck had said that he wouldn't be in the UFL for long, only to find out that he hasn't kicked for anybody this year. So I could sometimes wonder if Rodrigo could do it all over again if he would have showed up for Birmingham and been their kicker this year versus his weekly posts on Facebook about reenacting all the big kicks of the week. So anyway, so that's your standings through week 9. Let's look at I was hoping Brett would be back on here so we could go into his power rankings. So once again, to entice him to come back, let's go ahead and put his power rankings for the final week up on the screen. And I guess we'll break it down until Brett gets back. And then after that, we'll go into the scenarios for the teams in week 10. So here is the Brett's week 10 power rankings. He's got Orlando number 1, St. Louis number 2, Louisville number 3. I guess looking at these, here he's back. Look at that. Perfect timing. So Brett, I won't comment anymore. You take it from here. These are your power rankings.
Well, this is the UFL Fans in the Bottom Line podcast power rankings that KJ and Ed and everybody always agrees upon, especially Eric.
sure.
Look, I had to slide Dallas down to the bottom. Again, guys, y'all remember when I picked them to win it like 2 years ago? It took them to week 4 or 5 to finally get a win basically the last 2 seasons. And then this year they started 3-0, and you thought, hey, they finally decided they're going to play a whole season. Yeah, they still have not figured out that there's like 10 games in the UFL and there's not 4 or 5. I mean, what in the heck happened? And I'm like Ed, I like Neuheisel. I got to interview him after the overtime game in Birmingham, and you can't help but like the guy. And I really think that I think Austin Reed basically has went backwards. He looks like a deer in headlights, and he's making all the wrong reads and decisions. But that's just my 2 cents on what's going on in Dallas. Houston, I'll side with AJ on this, or KJ. I feel like if Houston had a different coach this year, they've got some players on that team, and they have given every team that they played this year hell, except for that one game when they had Talia in DC, and it just dominoed. It just totally dominoed. I told y'all Talia was who I said he was. But Houston's probably the best, and this is no consolation. I'm not mocking KJ at all. Probably the best 3-6 team in the history of the league. I mean, they could absolutely be 5-5 right now, no question. Or 5-4, 6-3.
So did you see JR's comment about me? JR says you are scary good looking, and I thought he's got to be talking about me.
He got to be talking about Ed. He got to be talking about Ed.
Hey, I did shave today, so
he's definitely talking about Ed. Columbus Aviators, I give them all the credit in the world for actually coming out last week and spoiling Birmingham season. They did not give up. I mean, again, Birmingham led basically the whole game except for when it mattered. And I give them a ton of credit for that effort. And I really think I don't think they'll beat Louisville this week, but I think they're going to give Louisville every bit they wanted. So pretty solid way to end a really rough, turbulent season in Columbus. Birmingham at 5. I mean, I can't even be neutral about this. They are really the same exact team they were in week 1. I mean, at least you can't say, like with Dallas, that they regressed like Dallas has, but Birmingham hasn't improved either. It just, from week 1 on, they were who they showed us they were. DC at 4, look, if they don't throw Bean in there and try to catch lightning in a bottle, I think DC is one and done in the playoffs, no matter who they play and where they play. You guys remember, I really started watching Louisville very close the week of the St. Louis game. And St. Louis took care of business. I thought, I guess I don't know anything about football. I guess A.J. McCarron's right. Well, look at what they've done since the St. Louis game. They've won every game. And they've looked damn good at doing it. Watch out for Louisville. If Redmond will let the quarterback and the OC do some play action and some throws on first down and mix things up, look out for Louisville. In St. Louis, I said from the get-go, them and DC were my championship favorites. St. Louis has proven all year long that defense was exactly who we thought they were. They've got injuries in the back end, but their saving grace is they got a front 4 that nobody can block. You've got, help me out on his name, Ed.
Peta?
All right, that'll work. Peta on one side, Freeney on another side. Then you got the big bull, which should still be in Birmingham, but AJ didn't protect him, and Carlos Davis. Not that I threw in another Birmingham reference there.
Stallworth has had a hell of a year too, but I know he got hurt last week, so I don't know what the status is on Stallworth, but hopefully he's back.
And as much as we like to, and we all, every single one of us, including Eric, including our viewers, have been waiting for Orlando to fall, have we not?
Yes.
And you've got to give them credit from week 1 until now. Yes, they lost a couple games there, but overall they've probably been the best team in the league. And if Becht will release the chains on that quarterback, Orlando's going to be hell. But still, right now, I feel like if DC can somehow put together a solid quarterback performance, I really feel like it's anybody's game. But I don't see how you can move them ahead of Louisville, St. Louis, or Orlando at this time. What do y'all think about the power rankings?
So when you looked at they always, the power rankings come out by the UFL every week. They always had St. Louis higher because of their strength of schedule.
Right.
They had the first half of the season, they played Orlando. They played Louisville. They played DC twice. They played Birmingham. So the front half of their schedule was heavy. But who have they played in their last 4 weeks of the season? Their last 4 weeks is going to consist of Columbus, twice against Houston, and once against Dallas. So the strength of schedule for St. Louis has got to be taking a hit. And I have not seen this week the strength of schedule that the UFL had put out, because I know you sent it to me last week, Brett, or the week before. But St. Louis, the last 4 weeks of the season, is playing the bottom 3 teams in the league. So
well, you say that, but Houston's not far from being a playoff team. I know the record doesn't reflect that, but them boys play hard.
But strength of schedule record.
I mean, I got you. I got you.
So when it's imperative, so when you go into week 10 and people are talking about should St. Louis rest starters, blah, 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 St. Louis needs to win to guarantee a home playoff game, because I have a feeling if St. Louis loses, goes to 6-4, say Louisville wins, they'd be 6-4. St. Louis has tiebreaker on Louisville because they beat them. However, DC wins their game and they're 6-4. You got a three-way tie. St. Louis, Louisville, DC, all 6-4. St. Louis split with DC. Louisville swept DC, but Louisville lost to St. Louis. So when there's not a clear head-to-head to determine who the second seed is, you almost have to go by strength of schedule, and that's where I think St. Louis could get hosed. So you look at Louisville. Louisville wins and goes 6-4, and St. Louis loses. I don't know if Louisville's necessarily out of second seed contention.
I think some things would probably have to go their way, but again, I'm being neutral about Louisville. I'm very excited about what's happened there. But just the fact they've got a team and what the really good support. It's a good first season, and we got one of these new teams in the playoffs. Hey, then we got Orlando's got the best record. I think it's good for the league. St. Louis, in my opinion, of course, you would rather play at home, but still, St. Louis is good enough and talented enough to beat anybody anywhere. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they obviously can.
Well, and I think when the playoff picture that I just put up that the UFL come out with, and I probably should say this, I've used several of the UFL postings, and I never want to take that for granted. So courtesy of the UFL, here's the playoff picture that they put out. And they basically have, it really comes down in the hunt in the middle, Louisville and Birmingham for the final spot. But all they say about Orlando, St. Louis, and DC is that they've clinched. They don't say anything about any kind of guaranteed seed. So I think that's all yet to be determined. But Louisville, like I said before, is going to know exactly what they have to do by the time they play, because Birmingham plays their game first. Birmingham plays on Saturday, don't they, Brett?
Yeah, I don't even have a schedule on me. I think they play at
here's the week 10 schedule.
Okay.
Stallions play at home on Saturday at 2:00 in the afternoon. That's probably going to be a little toasty, that game. Then you've got the Louisville brings up the rear on Sunday night, 5:00 game at Columbus. To me, that looks like an opportunity where they could have had Columbus in the 2:00 slot, being in Ohio, and they could have had Birmingham playing the 5:00 game on Sunday, but who am I? So
this is where the confusion has came in, and I've seen Luke with State of the Stallions really create a huff about this on X and on Facebook, and I even got a private message from him earlier. Me and the Horsemen did, the booster club for Birmingham, and what I don't understand is all right, Orlando clinched. They announced they clinched. St. Louis clinched. They announced they clinched. DC clinched. They announced they clinched. But yet Birmingham and Louisville could finish with the same record, and Birmingham beat Louisville straight up, and Birmingham could still be left out of the playoffs if DC loses to Orlando. Now, I know I'm getting old and I'm from Alabama and all that, but please explain that to me, because if you clinched, you clinched. What happens with DC and Orlando have a damn thing to do with Birmingham and Louisville? That's what I don't get.
So
That's it.
So KJ, before we comment on this, he brings up a good point here. And it's what I alluded to in my intro to the show. When it comes to DC, you hear some say that they've clinched, and even the UFL
So the
website put that they clinched, but yet there's good points made here that in a scenario where Birmingham, Louisville, and DC all have identical records, why is it that they can automatically say DC is clinched when there's an argument to be made all the way around for all three teams that it has to go to some kind of strength of schedule, because you can't clearly determine head to head out of the three who the front runner is. You go to strength of schedule, but strength of schedule again, if the strength of schedule is going to be high on the tiebreaker
right.
realm, which it is, because right here, tiebreakers for 26, strength of victory is.
This is, I guess if that's from their page, then maybe that is accurate. That's not what's shown when I did a search for it online.
You just tipped your hand, KJ. You know why? Because this right here, this is the problem. The UFL posted this shit a while back. Well, they posted it. UFL
No, I'm not saying
and we all got copies of it, obviously, and now this has since been deleted from their page,
right,
and they came out with the new list today, and it don't. Me being a Birmingham fan, and personally, I don't believe they deserve to be in the playoffs, but what's right is right. You can't turn around and change the shit every other. I mean, that's a bad look. So I made a post earlier on X with this and tagged Rapoli, tagged Russ Brandon, David Dykeman, the UFL, and tagged a few other people in it, because you can't say one week that it's this and then turn around and say next week that it's not without a pretty good explanation. And they've been very transparent this year with Rapoli, but
right.
This
is an AI search result I found, but I'm assuming AI knows how to read basic English, so it's be hard for them to flub this up. To that point, head-to-head is still shown as the number one, but then to your point, Brett, as kind of a clerical difference from that older posting, it's conference record, which is not strength of schedule. If you really want to get down to it, it's what your record is against those teams you've played, the record of the teams you've beaten, so to speak. And DC arguably has played, I think, holistically, the harder schedule between the other two teams. You know, I guess the one
I wanted to actually say right now, I don't know if Luke's figures were wrong. And again, he was pretty realistic like me. To me, screw them. They blew their playoff chance last week. But if what's right is right, supposedly Birmingham was number one out of the three, out of Louisville and DC with the strength of record, schedule, whatever. Now, they were all three very close. Obviously, there ain't but 8 teams in the league. But Birmingham was number one. So if Birmingham wins and Louisville loses and Birmingham still don't get in the playoffs, to me, that's a problem.
So KJ, one of the viewers is asking the question again, what is this new list? Say again where you found this, where this comes from?
This is just, I just did a simple, I mean, as clear as you can see it there. You have playoff tiebreakers. I was simply searching it up. AI doesn't make shit up, so it pulled this from somewhere.
Right.
The link below, if you go, I guess, I don't know if the rules on the actual website even have the tie-breaking details on it. I have to go through here and look and see if it's even highlighted in their actual on the website itself, because that would be pretty definitive beyond old posts like Brett's referencing that they may have posted and then deleted weeks ago because they changed the cohesive structure of it. But there's not anything to that point that I've seen that's on here that really gets into the specifics on.
My whole thing is, again, I love how transparent the league has been and how transparent Mike has been. But this, to me, and that's why I tagged him in a post earlier, he needs to go ahead and get ahead of this. Say, hey, we screwed up.
Right.
Explain it. don't post a smart ass thing talking about 1.6 million of the 1.7 million viewers were Columbus fans, because I got news for you, Mike. The last 2 years, the number 2 teams in TV ratings was Birmingham and St. Louis, and Birmingham actually per capita got that last year. So when you start making smart ass comments like that in your post, you need to know what you're talking about.
Well,
And
Mike Vogel makes a comment here. It says that looks to be an old version that the KJ's got, because it says
It might be.
they don't have conference. They don't have conferences anymore. But
right.
But I would say, I guess I would challenge the UFL, and who in the hell am I? But with such an important pivotal week coming up, they know they can be as detailed as they want to be on playoff scenarios.
Right.
They can go as far as saying the scenarios for seeding. So I mean, you don't have to get into the weeds and say 5, 6, 7 deep on the tiebreakers, but you should be able to say with relative ease what St. Louis has got to do to guarantee a number 2 seed, and so forth.
It's not hard, in my opinion. I mean, we could take 30 seconds here, honestly, and comb through it in my eyes. They're arguing that DC is a lock. Let's scratch this. Like I said, I know it's shady AI search results. If the strength of victory is still the true barometer, I mean, I would still question, to your point, Brett, if you're claiming that Birmingham has the upper hand amongst all 3 of those. I don't know if that's
that was the figures I saw today, and we went back and forth.
I know Louisville obviously beat DC twice, so if they win,
right,
they should be guaranteed a spot. That's a given, and I can understand the seating capacity. That's maybe where DC would drop to 4 instead of 3. But who is Birmingham from? You know, you're looking through the schedule here. I literally looked at this earlier in the show when y'all were discussing, I think, some of the.
Well, they beat Louisville. They beat Orlando.
Yeah, well, okay. Orlando's the only one that really gives them any credence. They lost to St. Louis. They lost to Houston. I don't think they have the upper hand when you look at strength of schedule. That's my thing.
The numbers I saw, they
lost to DC. Louisville wouldn't. So that right there, that kind of automatically gives you the indicator.
Right.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, you say DC clinched, but then if DC, so that means, let's just say, who gives a shit? Orlando's in, St. Louis is in. You said DC clinched, so DC's in. So all right, if Louisville loses and Birmingham wins, they're both 5-5. Guess what? Birmingham beat Louisville. Whether it was the first game or not, it was in Louisville. Birmingham won that game. So I don't understand why DC's got to beat Orlando, because that's not what they said a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that may be the error in their notations. I would give you that, Brett, for sure.
But that was my only thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying they need to get ahead of this and just be transparent and not just push it under the rug because it's not a good look.
So you're talking about this one, Brett, the scenario of week 10 where it says Birmingham win and a DC win and a Louisville loss. The DC win was added when, to me, it should be as cut and dried as if they have a tie record, who won the head-to-head, which is clear. So where the DC got put into this equation is,
to Brett's point, it makes it look like more has to go right for Birmingham to even have a chance to get in versus it does for Louisville when they have a lot of different options theoretically to get in.
Especially when you look at clinching scenarios. Louisville wins, or Birmingham loses, and DC loses.
Any of the 3 can occur in Louisville.
Anything can occur. So my question is, if Louisville wins and DC loses, why does, I guess I don't understand, if DC's already clinched, take Birmingham out of it. If Birmingham loses, they're out anyway. But if Birmingham loses, what is it about a Louisville win and a DC loss that would keep Louisville out? I mean, wouldn't Louisville, they would be in regardless of what happens to DC, because if Birmingham in this scenario,
exactly, because DC is already clear.
Right. I think to Brett's point, it goes back
involved in this.
I think it goes back to the seeding component. Basically, what it's alluding to is the fact that if the Stallions get in, the only shot they have to get in is to get the 4th seed. Louisville has the capability to fall in either the 3rd or the 4th seed, depending on how the other games in the league go. That's essentially what this is saying without saying it.
Well, then they need to come out with
because DC is a lock for playoffs. They're not a lock for the 3rd seed. And I get it. Yeah, and I would 100% agree with y'all in saying that this is a very poor way of explaining it in the full holistic sense. I get why it's phrased the way it is, because as it is obvious, if you really understand the league strength of schedules and everything, it makes sense that Louisville would have to lose for the Stallions to get in, because as you already pointed out, when they're tied,
right,
the Stallions get the nod.
So if we beat that up enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's the whole scarecrow thing, guys. Come on.
So let's put up the Week 10 schedule again before we get into our picks. Well, let's talk about one other thing first. Brett, I'll let you talk about it, and KJ, you can comment on it as well. Tonight, they started a series on TV. And if I could find the damn thing, I'd put it. Oh, here we go. 4th and goal. It's got to be a good look for the league. I mean, they've never had any. I don't know. I thought this was a pretty good thing for the UFL, and they had episode 1 and episode 2 tonight. 30 minutes each that they had on ESPN2 from 7 to 8 o'clock. But why don't you guys go ahead and comment on this before we get into our Week 10 picks?
I mean, I've seen the previews, and I think it's great. I'm going to catch it tomorrow. I'm not too busy at work. If not, I'll just watch it when I get home tomorrow night. But I think it's great exposure, and it's great behind-the-scenes stuff, and something that other fans and people, they show a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you just don't know about, that you just don't, the average person doesn't see, doesn't hear. And I think it's great for the league, and I think it's a good move. Yeah, did any of the viewers get to watch these episodes tonight? Did any of y'all watch them? And if so, what did y'all think?
Yeah, what did you think of it tonight?
I think it's a good kind of quasi Hard Knocks NFL parallel. That's the best kind of parallel example I can give to Brett points. It's an added depth of behind the scenes coverage of the league that you wouldn't have otherwise. I do think, I say this actually with 99% confidence, I think the one clip that was shared earlier in the year of Rapoli meeting with the coaches before we kicked off the season, I think that's included in one of these episodes. And the other clip that had Rapoli talking to the kickers in the camp leading up to the season, I think may also be included. That one I'm less confident on. But those are essentially the only leaks, if you will, that we've had of probably some of the aired footage that will debut in this series. So that alone, to Brett's point, I think that added level of transparency will give folks interest. And I think too, this is a really more of a grab of the eyes and attention of your casual fans, because for the folks that want to see, nonstop action and are expecting, a playoff NFL level performance in every week of UFL play, which I would argue we've had really close games every week, even if it hadn't been every single game every weekend. That being said, I think this will be a pull for those casual fans who want to, okay, what's the drama about? What's the allure? Where's the, what's going to really convince me to give this league a chance? And this thing, I think, will pull some of those fans who otherwise maybe flippantly flipped through a game and maybe came across a game that was less exciting from their point of view. So they've already wrote off the UFL, shallowly and impulsively as not worth consideration. I think this will redeem a lot of folks opinion of the league and probably pull some additional fans' eyes in. So
I don't know about you fellas, but we're going into the final week of the regular season, and I think this is year 3 of the UFL, and we can even compared to XFL 2020 and USFL those first 2 years, and then XFL was it 2022, 2023, whenever it was 2023. I think this year, the quality of play to me has been better than any of those except for maybe XFL 2020. I think the quality of play has been really good. I mean, it always, the first week or two is a little slow because they only have 4 weeks of camp, but I think the quality of play has been great this year.
Yeah, and I got a chance to watch quite a bit of the first half hour tonight, and to me, it's riveting stuff when they let you inside the room when the head coach is doing his cuts, the final roster cuts, and you get to see the exchange between the coach and the players. I mean, that's real stuff, and that kind of stuff doesn't get old. I could watch that all day. So
yeah.
Now that we've said that, Brett, let's announce one more thing before we go into our picks. I keep coming up with more and more stuff. Let's get rid of that and let's put this up.
Oh, yeah. UFL fans, we're a big Facebook group. We got an X page now, and we just wanted to make it official that we're partnering with the Bottom Line podcast. I get so many requests, gosh, daily, weekly, every night. Some people know to not even try, and they still want to get in our group 12, 1, 2 in the morning trying to get their podcast in. But we just want to kind of make an exclusive partnership with Ed and Eric and everybody that, we're happy with who we use here, and I think we cover the league pretty well, or we do the best we can between me and Eric and KJ and Ed, and there's no sense continuing to, we like to add viewership and add eyes, and just want to make an official partnership between us and the Bottom Line because they're good folks.
Yeah, this is awesome for us, and I know that. How big's your group, Brett? It's over 32,000, isn't it?
It's about 32.5 now. But the good thing is we're in final week of the regular season, and hell, we still get 10, 15, 20 requests a day, which and a lot of times these are people from all over the country. They're not necessarily in Kentucky or Ohio or Texas or Alabama. I mean, we get Arizona, California, pretty much all over. And we've gotten quite a few Oklahoma City people already. And a guy posted today, he was going down the interstate and posted a picture of the new construction for the new soccer stadium there in Oklahoma City where the new expansion team is going. So, man, I might not be able to post in the group for another month, but we've got a lot of good members that are constantly posting all the news, all the breaking news, rumors, super fans, and then, we got a lot of the other alternate football league and some of the other people that are constantly posting in there as well. So it's a great place to hang out. If you got a problem with a certain few members or whatever, just block them. We got 30,000 more, and I'm sure by this time next year, hopefully, we'll be at 40,000 members.
Very good. Well, I think, guys, it's probably ready to get to our picks. We're well on our way to cutting this bad boy off at 2 hours again. We're getting pretty damn good at this. So let's start off with, and I'm going to have to give Eric shit this week because I requested his picks well in advance and he didn't get back to me. So I'll get Eric's picks to UKJ and we will get them posted as soon as we can, along with our picks. So
I think that's mandatory disqualification.
Yeah, he's kind of getting desperate, and he's starting to look for, any advantage that he can get. And I don't know, we might have to impose a 2-game penalty on him, but for now, let's get to our picks. Game 1, Friday night, could clinch at least the number 2 seed for St. Louis, and could get a number 1 seed with the Orlando loss. But you got the Dallas Renegades on a 6-game losing streak at St. Louis, who's 6-3. St. Louis is 3.5-point favorites at home under Friday Night Lights. Go ahead, Brett.
Growing up at a gambler's house, I used to gamble in football games at 16 years old. As soon as I got my driver's license, would go right up to the Northport game room, me and a bunch of hairy, grown, steroid men placing bets and me weighing 110 pounds soaking wet. And I can't tell you how many times I lost off a half a point. I hate a half a point. But give me look, Dallas, I don't care what they ain't got nothing to play for. St. Louis has got everything to play for. I am worried that St. Louis might put some other players in the second half, and I understand that. But just give me St. Louis minus the points.
KJ?
Yeah, I think Neuhauser will make an effort probably to switch up the QBs, obviously, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to make the difference in the long run with this game. We all know Battle Dome is probably the most formidable venue in the entire league in terms of road games for teams. And St. Louis's defense has done well to stand up when called upon and when truly needed in clutch moments. So I think this will be no different, especially for a team like Dallas.
So the biggest question mark on this game for me is going to be if St. Louis is going to give Harrison Frost a little tune-up so that both quarterbacks have some time under their belt heading into the playoffs. I definitely think it's still Luis Perez's job. I think Luis will be the starter in this game. But I think that if he needs to shake things up or needs a spark, or if St. Louis, for some reason, is in a good position at halftime, I could see him giving Harrison Frost some time just to feel a little bit better about the number 2 quarterback going into the playoffs. I'm going to take St. Louis as well and give the 3.5. Next game on the docket, Houston Gamblers 3-6 travel to Birmingham, who's 4-5, who's fighting for that last playoff spot. We're going to know Saturday what Birmingham's fate is, at least whether they're still in it or whether they're done. Birmingham is 3.5-point favorites. ESPN 2 game at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. I'm sure it'll be a hot one. I'll go first on this one. Birmingham's offense hasn't showed me that they can cover a 3.5-point spread. So even if I was to think Birmingham was going to win this game against Houston, with Houston's defense and Birmingham's lack of a offense, I guess, as a whole, I think this game is going to stay nip and tuck the whole way. I don't think there's going to be a runaway from either side. I think the Birmingham's defense will be good enough to keep Birmingham in this game, but can Birmingham get enough offense to get a win? I think maybe they can, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a field goal or less. So with that, I'm taking Houston. KJ?
Yeah, I echo your sentiment there, Ed. That's really my question. Is I don't know Houston will be able to pull off the upset from a win-loss standpoint, but I think they will come in. They'll play hard, and I think I just don't have confidence in the Stallions to be able to officially and fully cover the spread here. So I'm going to take Houston just on the spread component alone.
Houston not only covers, but they win straight up, and in my opinion, end hopefully in this very short era in Birmingham, especially when it comes to the coaching staff. I just and I know we argued about the whole playoff scenario because what's right is right, but I just don't see Birmingham winning this game. Houston has always given Birmingham fits. Houston beat Birmingham by 59-yard field goal earlier this year, or whatever it was. Birmingham still got a kicker that you just flip a coin. You don't know what you're going to get from 1 minute to the next. Birmingham has no pass rush. It's the same. It's been the same all year long. Give me Houston by a touchdown.
Okay. Let's see the comment line. I think we got Marty's taking the St. Louis Battlehawks, and he's taking the Birmingham Stallions. I'm sure he'll call you up after the show, Brett. And
well, bless his heart. I hope he's right, but he's seen the same team I've seen this year.
Next game, Orlando 7-2. They're 1.5-point favorites going into DC, who's on a 3-game losing streak at 5-4. Can DC right the ship before the playoffs, or do they continue their slide? What do you think, KJ?
This one's so speculatively tough to know what Anthony Beck is going to do. He hasn't formally announced their QB lineup, right? That's still unknown.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm totally playing this on a wild card because from the rumblings we've heard, from what I've seen on social media now, and I don't know if all of this is holistically true or not, but from what I've seen, you've got the soccer conflicts with the Storm's native stadium. You've got repairs going on at UCF Stadium and Camping World Stadium, which are the other two most notable venues in the Orlando area that I'm aware of. Unless they somehow resurrect the archaic Orange Bowl, and I don't even know if that thing is still up and standing.
It's not. It's a parking lot.
I don't know where these guys play, staying local. So, that to me almost gives kind of Anthony this, backhand of guarantee of you're not getting home field advantage even if you effing win. And if I know that as a coach, maybe even if it's behind the scenes is not publicly announced, if he knows that as a coach, why would you waste the risk of injuring a guy? You're not going to get it. It's stupid and pointless. And I know Corral, but then they've got this other kid. I was just looking it up, Hank Backmeer. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. I don't know him from Adam. I don't know what he would be like on the field. If they put Corral in, they probably could still easily win the game if he plays, smart game manager. But I don't know anything about this Hank kid. If he's trash, I could easily see DC pulling out a win. Spencer Sadlers has not played horrible. It's just, we know all the other problems DC does with self-inflicted issues. I think the point spread is too close for me, so I'm going to still stick with Orlando here. But I would predict and not be surprised if they don't start Plummer. That's my prediction for the game.
Mike goes into detail in his picks. In the last game, he's got Houston wins by 7 in front of the smallest crowd of the year for the Stallions.
The Rowdies play? What are the Rowdies, Mike Vogel? Tell us more.
You got Orlando wins a nail-biter with a late-minute DC comeback. On this game, I saw a presser with Coach Beck when he said that he owes it to all the players on the team to be constantly trying to put film together for them to take that next step. And he says you can't control what film scouts are going to look at, what film the NFL is going to look at, and that he owes it to all the players for that game tape to be good no matter what. So he said he's going for the win in week 10, just as if it's another week. Now, whether that's a line of bull or whether that's honest to God truth, who knows? But he said that he's playing week 10 to win. And so with that said, I'm going to take DC because I think the game is a very important game for DC. They've got a lot that they've got to figure out at the quarterback position with this game, whether he's going to give any of the other quarterbacks a shot or whether he's just going to ride with Spencer Sanders and see how it goes. I think he's got this one last game to get things righted, and I think this is an important week for DC. So I give them the win this week. I think they'll beat Orlando outright.
I'm with you, Ed. And Beck is so stubborn. I wouldn't doubt what he said is exactly how he's playing it. But when you got the quarterback that's been so hot, you got Rowland, you got Isaiah Buggs and Lockett and some of those guys on that defensive front. I mean, do you want to win a championship or not? And trust me, look, Buggs is getting back into the league. I've already spoke with the Bears GM. He's all but signed. So he just needs to rest, DC's got to get some momentum going into the playoffs. They can't go in losing their last, 4 games. And I expect Bean to get a lot of playing time, and I think they'll catch fire. And I got DC winning by 3 points at home.
So that brings us to our last game. By the time Sunday night at 5 o'clock comes, Louisville's going to know their fate, whether they're in or whether they're in already or they got to win to get in. But regardless, they play at Columbus. Louisville's 5-4. They're 2.5-point favorites at Columbus, who's playing their 10th game. They're already mathematically eliminated. Who wants to go first on this game?
I think Columbus gives Louisville just about everything they want because how Columbus played last week, I would anticipate the same coming from them in another home game. And, they play better at home this year by far than on the road. But I think Louisville's just playing so well and they're so hot. I think Louisville wins. I think they cover. I think they win and earn their playoff spot.
And
give me them Kangs.
Yeah, and I really think that that's the way Coach Redmond wants to go in. He's got the team on such a streak. Winners of the 4 out of their last 5. There's really no business for them to lose this game. I think that they're on a roll right now. And I don't think they want to leave anything up to, well, I guess there's no indecision because they'll know whether they got to win or not. But I just think they're going to go in on a winning note. They're going to turn it into 5 of their last 6. And I got Louisville winning outright as well. KJ?
Yeah, I'm going to be the trendsetter here. I don't know if it's going to matter much in the grand scheme of things, but history seems to repeat itself a lot of times. There's obviously changes in the ether, but I think Columbus will give them hell. I could see this being a 1-point game. So I'm going to take Columbus. We'll see if they can hold true to their home field dominance throughout the league.
And Mike Vogel concurs with you, KJ. He's got Columbus pulls off the upset. So with that said, that wraps up the show for tonight. Another good one, guys. If you get a chance, sure appreciate you guys watching week to week. And if you can go to our page and give us a like or a follow, we'd appreciate it. Again, as always, appreciate all the pages out there who continue to let us post our show each and every week. Couldn't have the success we've had without you guys, so we really appreciate it. With that said, any parting shots?
I'm really excited, man. It's been a good season. I think we're gonna have some great playoffs, and I'm proud and happy with Rapoli and just about everything he's done. And I think we're really headed in the right direction as a whole.
Well,
Brett?
Go ahead.
Is your fandom set with being a Bama native, or is it more with being a pony?
With being a pony.
Everybody sticks around. It's a valid question for the folks out there. I'm sure everybody's dying to know.
What are you asking if Birmingham's going to be back next year?
Change your colors from maroon to green and gold, or whatever. That'd be the question. Green and dark green and light green.
I'll continue to rep the league like I always do, and probably have some gear from every team. We'll see what happens. I don't see the Stallions coming back to Protector Stadium. I will say that. So it's either the Met or them moving, but I really think Mike and the league really needs to show some continuity and give all 8 of these teams another season. You can't just keep flipping and flopping. It's not a good look.
Yeah, 100%.
So with that said, that concludes our regular season shows. Next week, we're going to have the special playoff edition, and we'll only have 2 games to talk about instead of 4. So we're going to be able to break them down even more than we do already. So with that said, everybody enjoy week 10, and we will see you again next Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. Enjoy football, everybody.